Hello everyone, this is Husky here. I'm going to be casting a 1 versus 1 between Leenockfou spawning down here in the bottom left side. He is going to be your red Zerg player. His opponent is going to be NEXsickness spawning down in the bottom right side. They are playing on the version of Shakuras Plateau where there is no rocks here. However, they can be spawning in these fairly close by air positions. A lot of times there is modified maps where you can only spawn at cross positions. That is not going to be the case here today, which I'm actually excited about because yes, most people as far as balance consider the ones where you spawn at far away positions to be the more balanced of the two, but you know what, it's kind of interesting to me to see these because there's so few games on the older original maps that it's just anything can happen here that you may not see in tournaments. So I do have the stats for these players. First of all, NEXsickness down here is technically, as far as today, not in Grandmaster League. He is currently ranked #1 in Master League. So he is ranked #1. He's really close to breaking into Grandmaster League. He's really high up ranked in his Master League. Getting rank 1 in any Master League is definitely not something easy. As 513 wins, 517 losses. So that's almost exactly a 50% win rate. He is really close. Scouting, unfortunately for him, the incorrect way. We'll be going down to the bottom left side, and you can see him going for a gateway right now, rather than going for that forge fast expand, which we'll see a lot of times on this map. A lot of times we'll also see the pylons with gateways just placed down here to wall this off. We may see that in a little bit as this game progresses forward, especially if he decides to go for a 3 gateway expand. A lot of times you'll just see players essentially wall this off and take that expansion, as it is the only way into the main base and the natural, this tiny little choke, which is honestly pretty surprising for a Blizzard map to have just one central choke like that. That's very tiny, easy to defend, and really anyone can kind of turtle off of that. Now, Leenockfou is a name that you probably aren't familiar with, but he has been, you know, fairly successful and has been around. And the stats for him, let's see, I have them right here. He is also on the Korean server, so I believe this game is played on the ladder for Korea. So I would definitely say the Korean ladder is by far the most competitive, simply because they have full-time teams and sponsors and all things like that, way more than anyone else in the world. So definitely I think it's kind of unanimous that it is the most competitive server. So if you're able to be highly ranked on that, then you are definitely a terrifying opponent. And he is currently ranked, let's see, he is ranked 60th in Grandmaster League in Korea, with a rank of 540 in the world, which I don't really trust the world ranking just because that's kind of my personal preference, but he is ranked 60 in the region, Grandmaster League, with 938 wins, 677 losses. That is going to be a 58% win ratio, and so I would definitely say that Leenock, looking at this, is going to be, just based off of stats, based off of the paper, is going to be our Zerg player. He will be the favorite to win this. But NEXsickness is a name that I have been familiar with. He has been a fairly strong player in the past, and you really can't go just based by ladder ranking, simply because a lot of players tend to practice with their team rather than playing on ladder. So that's one thing to keep in mind as this game is going to go ahead and start getting underway. Now, really, the next thing we're looking for is exactly what is our Protoss player going to do. We've already kind of seen what our Zerg player is doing, in that he's going for Zerglings, going for that early Zergling speed, and his hatchery is going to be a little bit delayed here. You can see it won't even be finished by the 5-minute mark, so he did not get that hatchery before Queen spawning pool or anything like that, and well, the Queen's being produced right now, just now going to be spawning there. And so we already know what the Zerg player is doing. We kind of know what the Protoss player is doing now as this game is advancing forward, going for a very standard, it looks like, 3 gateway expansion, which is as standard as it gets for Protoss, which on this map, I feel like this build is fairly powerful on this map, simply because, like I was saying, how easy it is to defend that location. And if he's going to use these couple units here to push away these Zerglings, he should be just fine, especially with 3 sentries on the field now. It should be able to do that, and the Zerglings will gather. Oh, are they going to gather? They're trying to run away. He's trying, it seems, to attempt to run them into the main base, microing them quite heavily. They're still microing those 4 Zerglings. He wants to see the timing of the expansion. He does see it. And then now those Zerglings will most likely run home, but he's continuing to peek in there. He wants to see how many units there are, wants to make sure that the Protoss player doesn't do anything sneaky. Here comes more Zerglings, though, so it seems as if our Zerg player may try to do something sneaky. Here it comes right now. Needs to get the force fields down. He does, and the sentries are going to be protected, but the Zerglings can easily run inside the main base. He's trying to chrono boost out one more sentry, but it's not going to happen. Zerglings are going to make it inside the main base. These sentries, unfortunately, are stuck in their little igloos that they have made for themselves. Nice force field there on the pylon. that was a neat little trick there, something that I think we can all learn from, and attempting to prevent too many probe deaths by these Zergling run-bys, but it is turning out to be pretty effective. If we do look at the units lost tab here, able to kill 6 workers during that engagement, which overall the units lost tab is identical, but as a Zerg player, anytime you can, well, most times when you can trade 2 Zerglings for a probe, that definitely ends up being worth it. So Sickness not going to be in great shape here as he's now trying to wall in here. You can see he's putting a very valuable robotics facility at his entrance just to try and wall it off, make sure that that does not happen again. And really, a lot of that damage came down to a lot of that damage came down to the fact that all of these sentries were stuck here, and I believe they're out of range for putting a force field here, either out of range or did not have enough energy at that crucial moment. And Zergling run by is very devastating for a Protoss. If you just let a couple of Zerglings in your base, they can start making you cry, which is exactly what we saw. Let's take a look at the units tab here. You can see 45 drones to 29 probes and 0 attacking units aside from queens from our Zerg player. So the one Zealot's going to run in here and scout around. A lot of Zerglings are spawning, though, just in time to clean out that one Zealot. No really massive damage dealt there, but that does tell the Protoss player kind of what's going on, in that he was droning really hard. There's only a couple of Zerglings now, and a lot more were spawning there right at the last second. So our Zerg player playing it a little bit risky, and our Protoss player is probably going to know, well, he's not really spending his gas on anything. Here comes another Zergling run by, but it's not going to happen. Locked down by the Zealot, who's just getting warped in. Kind of reminds me of Star Trek there, just kind of getting beamed in, having no idea what's going on around you. And here you can see now our Zerg player is going to start doing the standard defense timing, just making sure that he can hold the Protoss back long enough to get that up, as well as the Protoss player arrives here. It's going to give Leenockfou enough time to work on those mutilas. So I would say our Zerg player playing this out about how Zerg have been playing things out recently, in that, you know, the Protoss has to sit back, try and max out, but the Zerg player, well, he just kind of turtles a little bit and then uses these Zerglings to delay the attack of the Protoss as long as possible. So we do have fairly early Colossus here for NEXsickness, which this is something that we haven't seen as much lately. We've seen people opting into using more Blink Stalkers and things like that recently, especially in PvP, but also sometimes in PvZ. However, he's going to go for the kind of more older school, but still heavily effective early Colossus with that Thermal Lance. He's just going to have to make sure to watch out for these Mutalisks, because as you can see, only a couple of sentries here, and sentries, they are surprisingly effective against Mutalisks. I don't know what it is about that. I think a lot of it has to do with that Guardian Shield. Oh, excuse me. And kind of ate my own words here, as the double Stargate on the way, which I think is not a bad choice. I'm assuming that the Observer scouted out the... let's see if he has seen the Spire. He did see the Spire. I believe his Observer got taken out. Yeah, he no longer has the Observer, but he's immediately throwing down 2 Stargates. Now, this is really interesting to me. I'm curious to see how this works, because you can see he has no gas. He used a lot of gas on Thermal Lance and the... oh, here comes the Mutalisks right now. He has used a lot of gas on Thermal Lance, as well as that Colossus, plus the Robo, plus all those sentries. So he's really doing a tech switch here to, I would assume, Phoenix off of those 2 Stargates, especially that +1 attack, which the +1 attack for Protoss finishes surprisingly quickly. Look at, man, this Zealot is totally the honey badger of StarCraft 2 here. He is just sitting here. He doesn't care that he's getting shot by Mutalisks. He is the wall that is protecting the Protoss from Zerglings, and he will stand there until the day he dies. And usually units don't live more than a day in StarCraft 2, simply because, well, in the StarCraft land, man, battles happen so often that essentially everyone dies until the game ends. But we do have the 2 Phoenix on the field now, and I really like this from our Protoss player. This is something, honestly, I've always wanted to try myself as a Protoss player, is... if you see those Mutalisks, is it wise to switch to Mass Phoenix? Well, we're going to find out as the game progresses forward. Leenockfou in the top left going to be taking that 4th base as well. So, again, I would say the Protoss player is playing this out extremely smartly, but so is the Zerg player. I would definitely say the Zerg player has a slight advantage here. Look at that, only taking 2 Zergling hits from that Colossus, and then he backs out a little bit more to keep that vision. He's been unit controlling extremely well. He's using about 143 APM to make sure that his units are staying alive. Here comes some harassment right here. There are 4 Phoenix, though, which, if focusing down the Mutalisks, which is exactly what he's doing, he's got to be able to clean them up. Look at how good Phoenix with +1 attack are against Mutalisks. I don't believe a single Phoenix went down, and now all of a sudden the Zerg player has a bunch of these Mutalisks, which this is the trial and error. Well, not really trial and error, but kind of ebb and flow of going for Mutalisks as a Zerg, is if you lose them, then all of a sudden you don't have a ground army. You can't be putting on that pressure, and then the Protoss player is much basically they're the most effective outside of a Zerg player's base. So we do have the drones transferring over here, but after killing those Mutalisks, the Protoss is exactly where he wants to be. His army is fairly strong on the ground, not a terrifying army. However, he is going to be transitioning into Void Rays, it looks like, with some Phoenix support here. So we'll see how effective that is, simply because he can get the Corruptors to deal with units like these Colossus as well as the Void Rays. But for now, the nice force fields there are going to save this Colossus. Really good micro on that one Colossus. You got to remember that that is a Thermal Lance Colossus. It's the only one on the field. A buddy for him is about to appear. Here comes a Zergling counterattack, though, is going to lock down this third base. Oh, no, he's going to run by it. You got to try and run into the main base and attempt to snipe this Colossus rather than going for the expansion. Not sure if that was the best idea here, but at the same time, Zerg player is going to be losing his third base, and he still has another third base, though, which was technically his fourth. Is now his third. A lot of probes going down as the Phoenix are trying to pick up the Zerglings, but wow, completely decimating that expansion. So all of a sudden, NEXsickness letting that counterattack get to him and literally just kill every single one of the workers at the expansion. Absolutely devastating stuff here. Although it does look like he was able to squeeze out a couple of Void Rays, and this expansion should be defended once he warps in these Zealots. That's exactly what's happening. Being so pesky with just a handful of Zerglings, though. But at the same time, Leenockfou is going to be losing his own fourth, and so now it is going to be 2 base versus a 1 base mining Protoss, but technically a 3 base Protoss. So if Sickness can continue that probe production, then he should be okay. Although if we look at the units tab here, 46 drones to 33 of the probes here. A lot of Zerglings going to be running by right now. That is so many. And unfortunately for our Protoss, he's not going to be able to do anything about it. Is going to delay it as long as possible. May be able to get a sandwich here. Leenockfou just barely escaping there before reinforcing Zealots started trapping those Zerglings, and he's going to attempt to intercept these Zerglings, although he will allow them safe travel back home. And I think that our Zerg player realizes, man, I've got to do something here. That's why he made so many Zerglings to try and do that counterattack in the main base. And our Protoss player realizing, okay, if I can just keep getting probes, I should be ahead in the economy, unless there's a hidden expansion somewhere I don't know about. Going to be scouting around with these Phoenix. Needs to make sure, though, he doesn't get caught out of position with them against potentially a vastly superior amount of Mutalisks, which is exactly what's going to happen. Nice control on the Mutalisks, flying them directly in there just a little bit to take them out. And you can see that Sickness is trying to micro these because Phoenix are one of the only units that can shoot while moving. And unfortunately, though, he wasn't able to find that sweet spot to do a massive amount of damage. But for now, he is going to have to deal with Corruptors and Mutalisks, which he doesn't have the best unit composition for that if the Zerg player were to have heavier numbers. But in a straight-up battle, the Protoss is going to win in this situation, unless the Zerglings kind of engage here as well. But for now, it does look like Leenock, Fou is his clan, trying to do some damage here with these units, at the same time keeping the Protoss on his third, while he himself secures his third. So this is a very tough spot for the Zerg player to be in, because, I mean, look at this. We do have Templar archives on the way. You got to remember that High Templar, while not the powerhouse they used to be, are still extremely effective. Some Zerglings are going to be running by. No, the Zealot, Honey Badger Zealot, once again being worked in to protect that entrance. All those Zerglings getting roasted away. Nice control here by the Protoss. But anyways, High Templar are an extremely effective unit in this situation. And on top of that, Archons with the recent buff turns out are pretty good against Zerglings and clumped up Mutalisks with that additional range, that continued splash damage. But it does look like Leenock, not looking to make too many drones, is instead going to continue sticking with all these air units. He really needs to kill these Colossus, but the Phoenix are proving to be so annoying in that regard. All the Mutalisks getting taken out here. Slight miscontrol there. At the same time, he's trying to get these Zerglings inside the main base. No, he decides to get a surround on this army force field, going to prevent the Colossus from going down. Every single Colossus does remain, as these Corruptors are not focusing them down effectively, are instead going to go for the Void Rays, is able to take those out. Now the Colossus all get sniped at once, and both players taking huge losses here. 83 supply to 87. That does include, I believe, some additional reinforcements warping in. Yes, it does. Zerglings attempting to take out probes there. Let's look at the workers killed tab. 32 to 27 killed. Absolutely crazy game so far. 52 probes now to 45. So now the Zerg players behind, he is continuing to stick with Mutalisks, which I don't think are proving to be the most effective unit. I feel like he needs to go ahead and maybe start sticking with a standard ground army with just additional Corruptor support. But we'll see, because the Protoss player is continuing to make out Colossus, and now he does have High Templar, which the Mutalisk should be able to dodge the storms unless the High Templar are able to place them perfectly when the Zerg player is not looking away, or when the Zerg player is looking away for just a second and not looking at his main army. So here he goes, trying to get in the main base. The Honey Badger Zealot once again trying to hold off here, and he finally goes down, but then a force field right there after he dies spawns immediately, and these poor Zerglings have had 0-0 upgrades the entire time. Archon's nice there, saving those. He really wanted to keep those, it looked like, as High Templar, but at the last second he did morph them into into Archons there, just to keep them alive, and that's definitely worth it. Although our Protoss player has 0-0 upgrades as well. Just realizing that the only upgrade he has is that +1 attack for air units. So both players, if they're able to squeeze out some upgrades, may be able to turn the tides of this game. And here we go, Leenockfou switching to roaches with upgrades, which I personally think he definitely needs to spice it up and use Old Spice or something, because these Mutalisks are just not doing anything. We'll be able to do a little bit of harassment here. Any probe that he can kill will be ideal. Not sure what the Corruptors are doing here, but they are on the same hotkey group, attempting to be microed around. They just want to look cool. I guess he could use that Corruption ability, which does have a cooldown timer rather than a mana use. So if the cooldown is up, you might as well use it, especially if you're trying to kill probes as quickly as possible. But he is killing a couple of probes here, which Protoss player does not want to lose any more workers after the amount he's lost this game. Nice, able to snipe 2 last probes there before having to retreat, but there's a lot of Void Rays on the field now. 2 more Void Rays going to be on the way, which, well, Void Rays are pretty good against roaches, unless the roaches are split up, running everywhere, burrow, and things like that can prove to be difficult for Void Rays to deal with. And now the Protoss player, finally getting his economy on track, is working on his own upgrades. Look at this, 57 to 55 Harvesters, income almost identical, but our Protoss player is able to get the attack and armor upgrades now for his ground army, which I believe at this moment in the game is going to favor the Protoss much more heavily than the Zerg, simply because the Protoss player has a nice ground army and also is working on Blink and has those Archons, which are comparable to the Ultralisk, with our Zerg player is nowhere near getting. So I would definitely hand this game to the Protoss player in this situation, but so far we have seen both players go up and down. Supply counts for the Zerg player skyrocketing. You got to remember, though, a lot of that is going to be the mass roach tech switch. Don't know if our Protoss player was quite ready for it, because Storm is not the most effective against roaches. Some force fields here, though, going to try and block it off. And Storm, I was going to say, not the most effective against roaches, but if you can funnel them like that, then they are pretty good, especially with the Archons here doing splash damage to these Corruptors. Is going to leave the Void Rays completely, I mean, home free here. They can just sit here and kill anything they want. And look at this, 2 of the Void Rays going to be in the red. So attempting to burrow these roaches just to keep them a little bit safe. And the Void Rays able to survive, though, which you got to remember, our Zerg player going to be forced to make Corruptors, another round of Corruptors to deal with that. So there you go right there, 6 Corruptors on the way. We do have the Roach upgrades now, with those Tunneling Claws going to be on the way as soon as, well, it's going to be right there in just a second. He's going to try and use this to sneak around. Did he just kill a poor little probe? That was not very nice. I think he just killed his own little probe there. And the Roach is attempting to engage here. Not going to be the best idea, though. He wants to get these roaches at a nice angle in order to deal with the Protoss army. Because right now, just running, I mean, head-on has not proven to be effective with these roaches, and he absolutely needs to keep these roaches alive, because he's making the Corruptors. I don't know if he's going to switch to Hydras at all or not, but here comes the Protoss ready to engage here, and you can see the roaches having to slowly walk around, and they do burrow to attempt to escape those storms and regenerate their HP. You can see how quickly their HP regenerates when they are burrowed underground, but it looks like so far the Protoss army is slowly growing to a critical mass, and this game is quickly getting out of control for Leenock. He definitely needs to get another base, which is what he's working on, but it may be a little too late, because this base has been up and running now. It has transferred the probes over, and you can see he's just starting to saturate this here 1,500 minerals, now just down to 1,450 on each patch. But that income is going to start skyrocketing for the Protoss. The Zerg player starts to dwindle, because look, the Protoss player, since he lost so many probes earlier but was able to hang on, he can still mine out of his natural, can still mine out of his third, and just got a fresh 4th. It's going to throw down several cannons here, as well as an additional gateway just to help wall that in. So I don't really know what Leenockfou can do in this situation. He's slowly trying to get map control, working on moving these spine crawlers out here, but does he have enough air control here with these units? We are going to see nice feedback on the Queens, going to prevent them from healing that army at all, although that is a lot of roaches. A surprising amount of Corruptors able to take out a lot of the Void Rays. I do believe the Protoss will win this battle, or is he going to? It seems like he is forced to blink away here. The Corruptor amount proving to be exactly what he needed. Yes, there's a couple of Void Rays left, but if he just makes a couple more of the Corruptors, he'll be just fine, and even just ignoring 3 Void Rays, can prove to be really, really good. So our Protoss, all of a sudden, on the back foot, having to run all the way to his main base. He does have the 2 attack, 1 armor, but the Roaches with the speed proving to be extremely good. And there is an observer here to spot this, so he's going to have to sacrifice these Roaches, but he will be able to kill off a couple of Stalkers in the meantime. This Stalker right here going to not go down. I was going to say he's going to go down for sure, but evidently he says, no, Husky, I'm not going to go down. Leave me alone. And now the Zerg player has bought enough time, not only to make a Tetris piece of creep tumors, but also to get out the very powerful Infestor. So now this game, I would say, is starting to favor the Zerg player, as it's starting to slowly get out of control for the Protoss now. Although the Protoss does have a nice worker count and a nice expansion count, even taking this expansion up here. The one problem he's going to have here is he's spending a lot of money on static defenses, and his army is not growing as quickly as he's going to need to go against these Infestors. I mean, look how many Infestors are on the field. Where are they at? Right here. Here they go. Now, they do not have the upgrade for having enough energy right out the gate for that fungal growth. So that is something that is very important. That is going to buy the Protoss a little bit of time. I mean, this isn't anything he's doing. It's just the Zerg's choice. But he has made quite a few random buildings. Let's see how many cannons he's made during trying to attempt to defend this. Which, I mean, not saying that's bad. Like right here, these cannons right here will save this expansion long enough for the Protoss to get here. So, I mean, the cannons are doing something. Oh, killing all these pylons right away. That is money completely wasted. Now the Roaches are going to run in here. So the wall in here that the Protoss player had, it was a complete waste of money, and he has so many cannons that he doesn't have as big of an army as he might need going against all these Infestors. That is so many Infestors, so difficult to deal with Infestors in this situation. What you really got to do is, at this point, feedback may not be an option simply because you have to click that many times. Psystorming them may be a better, more viable option. We will see, though. However, these Infestors do not have Neuroparasite. They barely have enough energy for 1 fungal growth, so if the Zerg player is going to do any damage, he's going to need perfect fungal growth. Here comes the feedback, though. He is feedbacking them, though, and was able to take out several Infestors. You got to remember, Infestors only have 90 HP, so feedback, if you can get it off, will almost always one-shot them if possible. You can see one Infestor barely surviving here, but also has no energy. So he did decide to go for that feedback, which proved to be very effective right there. He's going to attempt to do this again. He does have the observer here to spot the burrowed Infestors, able to snipe one more there. The Roach is trying to get revenge by killing off the High Templars. Does snipe a couple of High Templars there, but these ones are going to have to return on home. And now the High Templars do have that 2 armor, so they're getting a little ballsy, trying to run in there and take out the Infestors. But the Infestor count has been whittled down substantially. And now I would say this is starting to go back into the Protoss' favor, just really showing you how important micro can be in StarCraft 2. He's going to be taking out the furthest creep tumors there. So our Zerg player, oh, a missed rally. Ooh, that's painful to watch. A lot of Roaches go down there. We do have a Warp Prism on the way, which is a lot of times something you only see in the late game like this, where a Zerg player is turtling pretty hard. Protoss player wants to try and figure out how to break that, force the Zerg player back. Look at this, Leenockfou going to be taking his 5th base, although he is only mining off of 2 bases, while our Protoss is mining off 1, 2, 3, and kind of a third of a base over here. So 3.33 bases for our Protoss player right now. That base is going to be quickly mined out, though. However, he is going to be going against that Neuroparasite, but is it going to be effective? Because really the only thing Neuroparasite is these Void Rays, which Void Rays are good, but I don't know if it's going to be enough here. So I honestly don't know what to expect in this game, just because it's been so close this entire time. Anytime I think someone is ahead, I am quickly proven to be wrong, and it looks like NEXsickness going to be taking his 5th base as well, or rather his 6th base. I don't know if this is going to be too early, as he may be getting a little bit greedy here. The Roaches are going to be destroying these rocks extremely quickly with that +1 attack, which may cue the counterattack from NEXsickness. The High Templar over here are looking for any of the oh, we did force a cancel there. Nice. And this expansion is going to get taken out as well. It looks like I just don't think there's going to be enough anti-air to destroy it, especially with these Void Rays fully charged. These drones are only going to get 1 wave of minerals before having to run away. And again, our Protoss player at 187 supply, but these Roaches have been showing to be extremely effective. We do have a mothership on the way for our Protoss player. He says, screw it, man. I'm going to go for a mothership. He is turtling so hard. I've almost never seen a turtling Protoss this hard. And going to blink over here to try and get rid of these Roaches. You can see the attack slowly getting more and more ahead for the Protoss. Nice Storms are going to force that back. So then decides to run his own units there. Not a big deal, as the shields will start regenerating quite quickly. And the Roach is just attempting to break this, but unfortunately, I mean, when a Protoss player has Stalkers, Cannons, High Templar, Colossus, Void Rays, and Archons, and are at a choke, that is when the Zerg player needs to retreat, which is exactly what's going to happen there. And these 3 pylons left unchecked, but there is no expansion there, which is exactly what the Zerg player wants. However, the Protoss player deciding to expand to a slightly more safe location rather than a location near his opponent, and throwing down even more gateways, which if the Protoss player now loses this army, wherever his army ended up, there it is. If he loses this army, he will be able to replace it quite quickly, and he will have a mothership just to finish out, kind of flush out his army. No storms able to go off here in this choke location, but now the Protoss player is forced to throw down more pylons there. This game is exceptionally interesting in that you almost never see this in PvZ, but here comes Warriors right now trying to attempt this, and does get the feedback here on the Corruptors, really proving that feedback can be very effective there if used correctly, and it does look like the Zerg player is going to commit here. I don't think this is going to be enough. This may be the final straw, and there is going to be the GG in Korean. That was an extremely good game versus, I would say, a vastly superior opponent on paper. However, you got to remember, being rank 1 in a Master League means that you are definitely not bad at all, especially in Korea. So phenomenal play from our Protoss player. He really had the perfect response to everything. And if we look at the workers killed, 51 workers killed by our Zerg player. But since our Protoss player kind of kept turtling and kept macroing up those drones, he never got desperate. And it really came down to being able to kill these 2 bases right here. Is that this observer? Yeah, being able to kill these 2 bases bought him enough time to remake all of his probes, and then he didn't try and end the game like a lot of Protoss players would have. He instead sat back and started macroing up like crazy, and then was able to win the game there. So a lot of units killed in this game. Zerg player able to kill 148 Protoss units, which is quite heavy. Protoss killing a slightly less exciting 476. I don't know how many Zerglings that was killed, but Zerglings pretty easy to kill in the late game. I do like the tech switch from the Protoss when he went those Phoenix against the Mutalisk. Where's that mothership at? Did she ever spawn? I don't know if she did. I'm kind of sad about that. I don't see where she's at. But yeah, able to get out a mothership, I believe. Yep, there she is, right there, cloaking a couple cannons, and really at this point there's nothing his Zerg player is going to be able to do, as he lost all these units. And production tab, he had 22 Zerglings and a couple of Roaches over here, but with no anti-air, what are you going to do against this many Colossus, plus a mothership cloaking everything? So you have to keep your detection alive, which is surprisingly difficult to do against Blink Stalkers. So yeah, a very good game. Hope you guys enjoy it. I will be back to casting very soon, I absolutely promise. This week has been bananas, as I've been making a special video, which will be released, I believe, on the 8th. And I have also been just kind of busy with real-life stuff, trying to work towards, you know, going to tournaments, going to LAN events, also going to conventions and things like that. So hopefully I'll have more information on all of that. So hope you guys enjoy it, and I will see you guys next time.